Hello and welcome again to another episode of Battle Ready. We don't have Drake today, but that's all right because today I thought we'd talk about helping kids in the hobby. So I think for a lot of us, there can sometimes be sort of I don't want to say a love-hate relationship, but there's things that you look at. That's, a lot of people have their pile of shame or their pile of potential, right? The pile of opportunity. And because they look at it like, I don't want to, it's going to be a hassle to put that stuff together, right? Or, it's a hassle to make time and get a game in and I just want to do something else or, whatever. And I think when it comes to kids and sharing the hobby with kids, you need to do your best to make sure that element of it, that they're shielded from that element of it as much as possible. Because to the extent that the hobby becomes a chore or something that, they're not interested in, kids can fall out of love with stuff really quickly. At least my kids can. I think that's true for a lot of kids, but for my kids, what they really like one day, in the blink of an eye, they're on to something else and they could care less about that thing. So I think there's some pitfalls that parents sometimes fall into when you're trying to share things with your kids, whether that's this hobby in particular, and that's going to be the focus of this video. But maybe you're really into sports and you want your kid to be into baseball. You can push it too hard and suddenly they're the least baseball kid that ever was. You think it's great that they learn the piano or the violin or the kazoo, right? And then suddenly it's something that's not super fun for them, and then that's it. The love that you were hoping to instill in them is gone. There's no love anymore. It's just a chore. It's just an errand. It's just a have to. And when you're starting your kids in this hobby, I think that can be a pretty big challenge. If you sit your kids down, you're like, all right, today we're building, all right, today we're painting or whatever, to sort of get them in the habit to see what can be. I think it's real easy to push the kids into not loving the hobby, and then that's it. You don't have a little buddy to play with anymore. And I can say, for myself, the hobby's super fun. I do enjoy playing and building, not so much painting, but playing and building, really, really, really enjoy it. And I want to share that with my son. And being able to do that has been amazing. It's made all of our games so fun. Seeing him light up and cheer and curse. Well, not curse, not allowed to do that yet. But, to shake his fist when the dice go awry. It's just been fabulous. So I've gotten a couple of comments and questions across a few videos about getting kids into the hobby and wargaming with children. And I wanted to touch on three sort of pillars, three key things, I think, in my opinion, what's helped me and my kid to really think about when you're doing that, right? So the first one is keep it fun. And I think that's the most important thing. Keep it fun. If you get your kid and you decide, we're gonna play a game and I'm just gonna beat the tar out of him because I know how to play this game and he doesn't understand, or she, I'm gonna say he because it's Drake, but he doesn't understand strategy yet, and so I just crush him. Well, then his experience of the game is gonna be getting crushed all the time, and that's just not super fun. Also, so you have to make sure that it's fun. That doesn't mean you're constantly throwing games. In fact, I power down a little bit in our Path to Glory games, especially when we were doing his war band, the Biting Boulders. Less so in our matched plays. But I power it down a little bit because I want him to feel success, and I think that's important. Also, but you don't have to throw games. I think one of the things you can do, one of the things I try to do in our games, is when he kills one of my guys, I try to celebrate that. And even though the dice come up and the dice say, oh, you take 2 wounds, It's really fun to sort of say, oh, you know, you chopped off his head at the last minute, or, oh, you know, the poison on your dagger crawled up his arm, and stuff like that to sort of enhance the narrative a little bit and give it some story context as to what the dice rolls mean. Really can help the experience. It really helps Drake, and I think a lot of kids, visualize what's going on, get excited about what they've done, because really all they're doing is rolling dice. If you think about it that way, it's not super exciting, right? Yahtzee isn't super exciting to play. But when you craft this story around it, and when you help them to craft the story, it gets pretty fun pretty quickly. I think also when we're talking about make it fun, is you want to make sure you're never doing it as a punishment. You never want to, you know, Drake does something wrong and I say, all right, that's it. You know, you got to paint some models now. You got to go to your room and paint models. Not a good idea, right? Because then he starts to associate the bad feeling of getting in trouble with painting models and the hobby, and you know, and then when he's out of trouble, he gets to do the thing that's not the hobby. So not good there. So you want to make sure you're always keeping it fun. And to that end too, you want to make sure it's something that they enjoy generally. Like in Age of Sigmar, it's little fantasy men running around casting spells and that sort of thing. And that's the sort of thing that Drake loves. He loves fantasy stuff. He's read a million books. There's a whole book series about dragons called Wings of Fire or something, so, you know, for younger kids. He's read all 14 or however many there are. I mean, he's really into that. So that's something that, you know, worked out pretty well. If he was more of a sci-fi guy, maybe we would have tried out 40K first. If he was, you know, I mean, he's not 60 years old, so he wouldn't be into historicals yet. But if he were, maybe we'd touch base on some Napoleonics, or, you know, any number of settings that you could look at. But you want to make sure it's something that they already sort of have an interest in. You say, oh, you like those dragon books. Want to play a game where we have dragons and fight? You know, of course, that's pretty cool. If your kid is just not interested, they just don't want to be part of tabletop gaming at all or whatever, you know, that's going to be hard to work it in for them. And, you know, wargaming, unfortunately, it's not for everybody. Tabletop gaming is not for everybody. I think it's for more people than people think it is, but it certainly isn't for everybody. And so that's not a bad thing, but you have to make sure that you're making it fun and keeping it within their interest to the extent possible. I think that's the number one thing. Number two thing, I think, is zero pressure. Zero pressure. Like I alluded to earlier, you don't want to make it a punishment. You don't want to say, all right, we have to do this. There's been many times when I say to Drake, oh, you know, I have the evening free. Do you want to go play Warcry? Lots of times Drake says yes. Sometimes Drake says, no, I want to play a video game, or I want to do something else. And I know in my head, okay, this is, you know, on these 3 nights, I'm doing one thing. I have a meeting on the, you know, basically this is my one night this whole week when I could play Warcry. It's the only one I've got. And so I'll ask, do you want to play Warcry? But if the answer is no, my response is, okay, cool. Right? No pressure. No pressure. I never want to say to him, oh, look, tonight's the only night I can do it, so let's go. We're going to do it. We've got to do Warcry. Never, 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 never. Because I don't want it to ever be the thing he's disappointed in doing. Where he says, I could be playing a video game, or I could be hanging out with my friends, or, you know, or whatever else. I never want Warcry to be the second choice. Now, what that means too is sometimes I just have to realize I'm not going to get to play Warcry that day, right? Or at least not with Drake. And that's fine. And then when I do say, do you want to play Warcry? And he says, sure. And we go and play. I know he's interested in it. I know he's ready to have a great time. He's primed to enjoy himself. So it's easier to keep things fun. So overall, No pressure at all. And that goes for all aspects of the hobby. So that was sort of the gaming side. But when it comes to painting, when it comes to building, all of that stuff, it's the exact same thing. You know, it's interesting, for his birthday, just recently, Drake really, really, really wanted the Octarius Kill Team box. I mean, that was he really wants it. We love Warcry. Myself personally, I prefer fantasy to sci-fi. Sci-fi's cool, I don't have anything against it, but if I had my druthers, fantasy's really what gets me excited. But Drake likes both. And so he really wanted to try that out. So he got it for his birthday. You know, it was funny, I told him beforehand, I'm like, look, you're getting older now. If you ask for a big thing, then that's, you know, you're not gonna get a lot of presents. When you were 5 and 6, you got a lot of presents, but they were all sort of small. If you ask for one big present, it's gonna be one big present. You're not gonna get a lot of other stuff. And so he was down for it. But he doesn't always like building, but he really wanted to build these models. He wanted to be the one to build it all. He wanted to be the one to paint it all. And so I sat down with him and I helped him through, and he's built all the terrain and started painting some of it. He's built about half of the Orc Commandos. And each, you know, if we have a little bit of time, I ask him, I say, hey, you know, we've got some time tonight. You want to build a couple guys? And again, half the time he says, oh yeah. And we go and he builds an Orc or two. And about half the time he says, nah, I want to do some other thing. So same exact thing, no pressure. Now, if he's doing something that, you know, maybe he's been on, you know, watching Netflix or YouTube or, you know, all that sort of stuff. And my wife and I sort of have a rule about how much of that he can do. So there are times when it's like, all right, well, you're off screens. No more screens tonight. But I try never to say, you're off screens. Do you want to go build? I offer the building first. Then I say you're off screens, and I just I'll just tell him, look, you can go read, you can do whatever you want. And then if he asks me, oh, can we go build? Then we will, because that's the choice that he's making. But I never want to tell him, hey, you have to build, therefore you can't do this fun thing that you want to do, whatever's on the screen. So always 0, 0, 0 pressure. Never make it a job, never make it a chore, and be willing yourself, you know, if you want to share this with your kid, if they're not excited at the exact moment that you're excited, wait for the moment they're excited. Don't try to pressure it on. Don't try to push it and say, oh, we're going to go do this. It's going to be so fun. Because if they're not in the right mindset, it's not going to be so fun. And then then they're going to think, ugh, the last time I did the hobby, it wasn't so fun, so I don't really want to do it. And it just snowballs from there. So 0, 0, 0 pressure, no begging, no whining, no comments. You know, it's easy to say, oh, well, yeah, I guess we're never going to play. I shouldn't say it's easy. He's a kid. No, you shouldn't be doing that anyway. But it's easy to feel that way. Let's put it that way. And you just want to make sure you're repressing all of that, right? If he doesn't want to play, very neutral. Cool. All right, you can do something else. No biggie. But you want to make sure he's there and ready. All right. The last thing I want to talk about, and it's related to the first two, because all of them sort of flow from the same area. But the last thing I wanted to talk about is to go at their pace, right? So with me, I love the gaming aspect, but of the hobby portion of it, my favorite is building the models. You know, I was never much of a model builder in my youth. I didn't really play with Legos much. I didn't put together model airplanes or anything like that. Just never really interested me. I'm trying to think if I ever got a Model 2 put together. I'm sure that I did, but just never something that I did. And having jumped into this hobby over the last, couple of years or whatever, that's my favorite part. I love building. I love putting this stuff together. I love seeing everything from just, little sprues of nothing, basically, seeing it come together as a a model, a great unclean one, or even a, Carrick Acolyte, from big or small, it's really cool. And I especially love the models. Putrid Blight Kings are a great example, where they give you, 5 pairs of legs, but they give you like 7 torsos and 25 arms and all kinds of different stuff. And so you can mix and match and put everything together and really create something that feels unique, right? It's not monopose. Now, you don't have the same exact thing as everybody else, or the same exact squad. Your squad is a little bit different. The guy's facing a different way, or the guy has a different head, or this guy's got the satchel that holds his gun, the holster, right? It's all different. And I really like that. I like that it gives you structured creativity, right? You can't go crazy and model stuff, although people can and do. It's just, I don't have those skills, and I'm not going to do that, at least not at this far into my hobby career. But at the same time, I can put it together, but I also get enough ways to make it unique and sort of make it my own. Super, super enjoy that. But Drake, not as much. Even when we build orcs, or when we were building the terrain from Octarius, he'd build one thing and be like, well, I'm done. And it wasn't bedtime. It wasn't dinner time. There was no big reason to stop. There was no reason to, something was coming up and interfering. It was just, well, that was as much as he wanted to build, and he was ready for a break. He was ready to do something else. And that is so different than me, because once I actually don't like stopping. I have definitely stayed up way too late, because I get up early in the morning for work, and I stay up way too late putting little plastic mans together, and regret it the next day, but I just can't help myself. I love putting this stuff together, and I really dislike stopping in the middle. I want to go from nothing basically to something. And when I have to stop in the middle, because sometimes it does get too late, or sometimes dinner comes, or sometimes, I've got a meeting and I've got to do a thing, then, I have to stop. And I don't like that. I like to put it all together. And particularly squads. If I have 5 dudes to get put together, I want to put all 5 together. If I've got 10 plague bearers, I want to put all 10 together. I don't want to stop with only 3 and then say, I'll get to the rest later. And so the fact that Drake does like to do that, super different from me. I can't tell you, there's been times when, he'll put together his one orc from the Octarius box and say, well, I think that's it. And I'm like, But, I don't say, you need to finish what you start. No, I say, okay, cool. Well, here, help me put the stuff away, because he's got to learn to be responsible, put away what he gets out. And then we save the stuff for next time so that we're not losing any bits. And that's that. And so everything stays positive. He never feels like he's failing because he didn't put stuff together all the way, or that he's not doing it the way that I like to do it. Painting's the same way. He enjoys painting a lot more than I do, so that's not as big of an issue. But whereas I like to take a model or a squad or whatever, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this squad, I'm gonna do this model, and I just paint until it's done in a very workman-like manner. I try to make the models look good, although if you don't come to me for painting advice, you go to some of those other YouTubers out there. But, they look okay. They look battle ready, right? But that's, I'm just going to do it, get it done, move it along so I can go on to the next model, and so I can have my army ready to go. And Drake is more like, well, I want to do a little bit of this one today. I'm going to start my troll, my Fellwater troll. Oh, you know what? Today I'm feeling like painting a little bit more of the scrap pile from Octarius. Oh, today I feel like I'm going to start a different troll. So I have multiple started trolls, but no finished trolls. And it's very much a different method than what I like and what I prefer. But I'm not going to tell him, no, you finish what you start. You're not going to start another troll if you haven't finished that troll. No, it's his hobby too, right? And I want him to find joy in his hobby. And I want him to do it the way that he wants to do it. And like all of us, as we start the hobby, we make mistakes, and maybe he's going to find out why starting a bunch of models and then not getting back to them, that hampers him, or maybe he's going to find out that that's the way that he enjoys it the most, and because he enjoys it, that encourages him to do it more, and so he'll finish more that way, right? He'll find out what works for him. But it's important that if he wants to take a break, and if he wants to, try something else, that I don't force my version of the hobby on him. He grows in it organically himself. So I think if you're looking at kids, particularly younger kids, 8, 9, 10, 11, in that range, those are things you want to think about. You want to think about making it fun for them, eliminating any pressure on them, and then taking it at the pace that they want to take it, right? Make it their hobby that they're directing. Don't direct the hobby for them. And I think you'll probably have more success in raising a little war gamer that will play games with you, right? And I think that's, for anybody who has kids and wants to share the hobby, I think that's a huge goal. Prior to Age of Sigmar, I was and still am a big board gamer. I love tabletop board games. And I got Drake interested in some of that in the same way and sort of transferred it over to Age of Sigmar, and making sure that you approach it in those ways of, here's the fun, come have fun, and if you want to stop, you're the one in charge. That's really what's going to help them to develop the love that you have, and then ultimately allow you to share in those moments with your kid, which is unreal and beautiful and the absolute best part. I talk about building or gaming or all those things. Playing with Drake and having him enjoy it with me is the best part. Well, anyway, I hope that is helpful. I hope some of those tips can help you. And if you have kids that enjoy the hobby with you and you want to share about that, I definitely put it in the comments. I would love to see what other people have done. If you've made mistakes, and I certainly made similar mistakes when I was trying to help my wife enjoy my board gaming passion. I did the opposite of many of the things I just discussed, and that was not good. But if you have mistakes that you want to share, and then we can know to avoid those in the future, that would be great. But I would love to hear from other people that have had gaming with their kids, what they thought about it, and especially, failure stories are good too, but especially some success stories. Well, anyway, this has been an episode of Battle Ready, and thank you so much for watching.